The Art of Living. 11. Fortitude. Attacking and enduring difficulties. Imagine what you could do for God, for your family, for the world, if you were not so controlled by fear. We too often live in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of giving up control. Fear what other people think of us. We fear not getting what we want. We fear the unknown. We fear how a relationship will turn out, how our kids will turn out, how an important project will turn out. We most of all fear pain, suffering, and ultimately death. Fortitude, or courage, is the virtue that moderates our fears. But don't think of courage as something exhibited only by heroic people like soldiers going out to battle or martyrs dying for the faith. You don't have to be a William Wallace in Braveheart or a St. Joan of Arc being burned at the stake to exhibit tremendous courage. Ordinary people need to draw upon the virtue of courage to face the many challenges that come up in everyday life. A car breaks down. A certain project becomes a lot harder. An illness afflicts us. A boss doesn't understand. A coworker is challenging to work with. A child doesn't obey. A spouse hurts our feelings. How do you tend to respond in those moments when you experience setbacks? When things don't turn out as planned? When you're not treated well by others? When something you should do is going to be very difficult? Fortitude is the virtue that keeps us moving forward, pursuing the good we are called to do, no matter how difficult it might be. Fortitude is needed for the spiritual life. When prayer is difficult and dry, will you persevere and still be faithful to daily prayer? When God is calling you to give up something or do something difficult, will you have the courage to answer the call? When Jesus invites you to trust Him and to take a step into the unknown and surrender, will you have the courage to give up control and allow Him to truly lead you? Fortitude fortifies us. It strengthens us so we don't shrink in the face of challenges. It prevents us from becoming discouraged, giving up, or failing to give our best. Far from being disheartened, the courageous person still pours his heart into whatever God is calling him to do at the present moment, no matter how hard that endeavor might be. As the Catechism explains, fortitude ensures firmness in difficulties and constancy in pursuit of the good. It strengthens the resolve to resist temptations and to overcome obstacles in the moral life.
The courage to ask and endure difficulties. St. Thomas Aquinas explains that there are two acts of courage, endurance and attack. To bear our difficulties well, we must temper our fears so that we are not controlled by them. That's endurance. And there are times when we must withstand the difficulties themselves when it is possible and reasonable to do so. That's the attacking part of courage. A person diagnosed with a life-threatening medical condition, for example, learns about the disease and treatment options. He may adopt a new diet and lifestyle that will give him the best chance of being healed. He does all he can to fight the disease. That's the attacking part of courage. But along the way, there no doubt will be the lingering fear of death, the pain involved in the treatments, sorrow over his circumstances, and fear of the future. He will need to bear those trials well to give the best of himself in whatever he has left in life. That's the endurance part of courage. Similarly, if someone at work is not treating you well, unjustly blaming you for problems and convincing your supervisors that you are not doing a good job, you will need courage to face this trial. On one hand, you will need to do what you can to attack the problem. This might involve standing up for yourself and setting the record straight with your boss or addressing the problem directly with the coworker. In the meantime, you will need to bear well the unjust criticism and misunderstandings about your performance. And if, over time, your boss won't listen to you or you discern that confronting your colleague with the problem will only make matters worse, you will have to surrender to the situation peacefully, enduring the ill treatment like Jesus did on Good Friday, and continuing to strive to give your best to your work, even if it is undermined by this colleague. This involves the endurance side of courage. So fortitude is about attacking and enduring difficulties for the sake of what is good. Fortitude moderates our fears so that we are not paralyzed or inhibited by them in our pursuit of the good. But this does not mean we never experience fear. Indeed, the virtue of courage is not about being fearless. The saints experienced fear. Even the sinless Blessed Virgin Mary experienced fear. The Bible makes clear that she was greatly troubled at the Annunciation, and the angel had to encourage her, saying, "Do not be afraid, Mary," Luke chapter 1, verse 29 through 30. Fear is a normal part of the human experience. In fact, the virtuous man experiences fear over the right things and to the right degree. If I'm hiking on a trail in the mountains with my children and I see a large grizzly bear charging toward us down the path, it would not be virtuous to have no fear and continue on the trail as if all were normal. If I did not feel fear over this dangerous threat to me and my children, if I were not motivated by fear to act quickly to save our lives, then there would be something seriously wrong with me. Perhaps my perception of the situation is not accurate. I don't realize a charging grizzly bear is life-threatening. Or perhaps I don't care for my own life or value my children as much as I should. In either case, my lack of fear in this situation is far from the virtue of courage. It actually exhibits the vice of fearlessness, by which I do not fear as much as I ought. In summary, the virtue of courage is the mean between two extreme vices, cowardliness and fearlessness. Courage moderates my fear for two reasons. One, so that I do not shrink from attacking difficulties when I can and should do so. And two, so that I am able to endure those difficulties and not withdraw from the good I am pursuing. We will now turn our attention to 4 specific sub-virtues we need in order to be courageous. One important sub-virtue of fortitude related to attacking difficulties is called magnanimity. Some of the sub-virtues related to enduring difficulties are patience, perseverance, and constancy. These are some of the most important virtues we need to cultivate if we want to become men and women of courage. Reflection questions. Fortitude is about attacking and enduring difficulties, which is more of a challenge for you? Proactively attacking problems, difficulties, and injustices, or enduring trials and sufferings that you might not be able to change at the moment? Read 1 Corinthians 16:13. Near the end of this long letter to the Christians in Corinth, St. Paul exhorts them to stand firm, be courageous, and be steadfast. Why do you think fortitude is so important for the Christian life? The Bible reveals that Mary was greatly troubled and experienced some level of fear, as any human would. The angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary," Luke chapter 1, verses 29 through 30. How does knowing that Mary, the one perfect, holy, immaculate woman in all of history, experienced fear, encourage you in the midst of the fears you experience in life? In what ways might her example of not being weighed down and controlled by fear challenge and inspire you when you face trials and sufferings?